Support for Donnybrook Last Call is provided in part by Design Air Heating and Cooling.
Thank you so much for joining us for Last Call. This is our bonus round where we get to those topics that we just couldn't get to in the first 30 or so minutes. Joe Holleman, I'm going to start with you. It's kind of sad, I think, when any media outlet closes down. Certainly when the RFT shut its doors. Learned recently that Jim Salter of AP retired at the age of 65, and now there's no Associated Press Bureau. And it was announced this week that KDHX, the alternative radio station that a lot of people in St. Louis have enjoyed for years and years, will no longer have live programming. Again, no live programming. There's going to run reruns. So people, I don't know what people are thinking about right now, but there has been some consternation between the rank and file and management for about 2 years. What's your opinion?
My opinion is that, honestly, it's been years since I've listened to KDHX. I think the landscape has changed when it comes to music radio so much that I am sort of surprised that music radio exists to the extent that it does. I also think that there's been problems at KDHX for a whole lot longer than just 2 years. It's kind of been an up and down of problems going on there. And one of the problems was how do you change what a station is doing to respond to a marketplace when the people who are there are all volunteers, and then those volunteers end up telling people not to give money to keep the station going, and then when the station quits going, you also complain about that. I mean, to me, it seems like once was a good idea that has run its course, and I know I'm in the minority on that. I absolutely do.
Okay, yeah, so let me say you are in the minority on that with me. You know, this was community radio, which is a very niche thing, and it's music that you don't hear on the more commercial stations, and it was really run by a bunch of hippies who that are now old hippies, and I thought that in this big market it had a comfortable little niche and people liked it, and the new people running it decided that they wanted to be in complete control of it, and they fired some of the volunteers, which seems like a contradictory idea and other people said, well, this belongs to the community, you can't do this, and they seem to be, the management seems to be willing to blow the whole thing up rather than admit error.
Right, or take the L. All right, you lost. Okay, now granted, the DJ said don't give money. Okay, that was their approach to it. The reason that they're playing repeats all the time is because, as they said, they don't have the money. You don't have the money because of what happened. Just admit that you made a mistake. And whatever it was ours, and it was unique, and I liked it, and I've lived all over the country. I never heard anything like it. There was a couple shows that I would listen to pretty regularly, and I will say this, that whole thing where some very, very kind and genuine people got accused of racism, that's where management lost me completely. Because like I said, I don't know all of them who were volunteers, but I know a couple, and that was so unfair and that was so out of line that I don't want to feel like, good, I'm glad this is happening to you, but I think ultimately the old KDHX will return in some fashion.
Well, it's like and if it returns online, you know, is that...
No, that's not.
That's not the same.
No.
So you think that they will not sell the signal?
I hope not.
Yeah.
But
it's like...
It ought not to be theirs to sell when you're talking about the management.
Well, it's like it sounds like one of those little, and other than DJ's involvement, I don't know that much about it, but only that obviously people are very, very passionate about it, and you don't have that. But today, I think in the media landscape, I think we would all agree that you've got major players fighting for their survival. Right. You know, that the little niche, those little stations, I think they're on borrowed time unless somebody has a lot of money, squirreled away.
That's right. Ask not for whom the bell tolls, because it's going on all over the place. And like the corporate parent that runs KMOX and 5 other stations is just coming out of bankruptcy right now.
Right.
And you go around the nation, you don't see people listening to radios; they're all on their phones. So things are changing. Well, I think that the personalities on both sides deserve some blame.
Absolutely.
Because they should have sat down with some respected member of the community, a Richard Mark, Joe Edwards,
Charlie Brennan.
someone,
Yeah.
and sit down and say, okay, we're going to work this out, even though we don't love each other, for the good of this radio station that's a community treasure. We have to make this work.
Oh, you mean like the Transform Act down at City Hall?
Yeah, maybe they could get the Board of Aldermen to help them out. I think one thing that I think that both sides, or at least certainly the DJs, not recognizing, and I agree with Bill's point, in the early days, it was the only place where if I wanted to listen to acoustic Delta blues or I wanted to listen to reggae music, that was the only place to do it.
Yeah.
Now you can go online and find every reggae song ever recorded, and I can play them on my phone.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
that's
I can
not-
play them on
that's
my
not
phone, but
radio.
in my car.
But
Yeah, that's
you
not
don't
radio.
find out who's playing Tuesday night at BB's or who's going to be performing at Soulard. And that's, the restaurant community and the bar industry, if there is such a thing, should be getting together and saying, hey, let's support KDHX because they told everybody where the concerts were.
I think there's a lot of that going on in reverse, where like Parker's Table, a place that I go to buy wine sometimes. They're a sponsor, and things have gotten so messed up that they're no longer sponsoring KDHX. There's a lot of bars that are no longer contributing to KDHX just because it has lost that community feel.
Because you're emphasizing a negative. You're not giving some people something to rally around. You're trying to hurt somebody else, and that doesn't fly.
I agree, and I got a solution. Call it KDHX, a true American radio station.
There you go.
Good for you.
Not domestic.
Wendy Wiese. It's not every day that you see a member of Cardinal Nation criticize Cardinal Nation, but Jim Edmonds is out as the play-by-play analyst on broadcasts, sportscasts with Skip Carey, right?
Right.
And as it turns out, he went out, swinging his elbows because he said that nobody in the organization cares, and he used the word chaos to describe what's going on. I don't think he's good. I think he's burning bridges. He says he doesn't want to come back to spring training or sign autographs. What do you make of this?
I personally, the first time I heard him, and I don't know why he is so polarizing, but he is really polarizing. But the first time I heard him, I thought, who is that? He didn't exactly have what you would call a Carrie Buck voice for radio, but I thought he did a great job. I really liked him on the air. I didn't listen all the time, but I was really impressed at the outset. This reads, and I don't know if he takes anybody's counsel, doesn't sound like it, but this kind of reads like a guy who's, his pants maybe are getting a little too tight and his glory days are behind him and nobody's listening to him. And that's shame on the Cardinals. If Jim Edmonds sees something that your batters are doing or that your pitcher's doing, then I would want to sit down with Jim Edmonds. But
less than 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I agree with you. One, I got a sense is like, was this like, you can't fire me, I quit, Maybe. But about half of it, I hear you, Jim, but half of it kind of came off whiny to me.
Yeah.
I thought it came off very whiny. Then again, I'm a Cub fan. I've never liked Jim Edwards. I thought he was always kind of a hot dog out there. And a couple years ago, he criticized the Cub, Christopher Morel, who hit a home run and celebrated. And, that was unbecoming. And I thought, Jimmy the hot dog Edwards is talking about something unbecoming? So
Yeah, I agree with you about that. Edmonds was the worst guy to say it. Morel so deserved to get called out for that hot dog. That was way above and beyond.
No, it wasn't.
Anything.
Oh, no.
But the point is, and I will not miss, what I will miss about Jim Edmonds, I thought he was usually not prepared. So am I going to miss him? No. I will give him a minimum amount of credit for being the only one who would sometimes criticize the way the Cardinals were playing. And I have gotten tired of sports in general announcers. Because when you're paid by the team, nobody's being honest anymore. Like in the old days when Harry Carey would do the old popped it up. They don't criticize their own team anymore, and it's all Homer comment. Mm-hmm. Edmonds did a little bit of criticism. I will miss that, but otherwise, no.
What's Brad's last name, the color commentator?
Thompson.
Thompson, very good. But I also like Jerry Royce, who's getting up there in years, but he's an excellent analyst if the Cardinals are looking for somebody. And I'm available too. What the heck? Hey, Alvin Reid alongside Skip Carey. That's it for this edition of Last Call. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.
You talk about some pandering.